Well, good morning. So nice to be here. This is my first day at the event today, but we'll be here for the rest of the day, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a very difficult task to start the morning with a conversation which, is so permissive, and it's quite difficult to concentrate within a very short time frame a topic which is probably on the mind of everybody. So, good morning, Alin, and let us see whether we can demolish my skepticism that we can deal within 20 minutes on this topic. And I think we would need to narrow down a bit because it's way too wide and should focus only on some of its constituents. And if I were to, let's say, start asking you something, it would be to focus on the startups and tech in particular, and more concretely, let's say, how would both government on one hand and established businesses, on the other hand, can and do support the startups and tech industry.
Thank you, Raluca. Thank you for inviting me here. It is always nice to be around you. It sounds very peculiar here on the stage, so forgive my wording. So. I see that you are quite many. I thank you again for granting me the 15 minutes of fame. Minister Oprea, who should have been here today as at this time, unfortunately could not attend this meeting as he has a government meeting right now. But I'm pretty sure that he would have wanted to be here because usually he's a great supporter of the industry instead of being to the government meeting. And I guess since we wear similar glasses, last evening at around 11, the organizers asked us to fill in this 20 minutes. And I guess since they called me at around 10, I was the last one on the list because we are quite many state secretaries. We are like hundreds, so I guess I was the last one. And they called me at the end of the day. I'm a tax advisor, which is the worst kind of accountant possible in terms of imagination and so forth. So today we should talk about the dreamers who dream in color, and usually the accountants dreamed in white and black and white. So I'm going to tell you some stories, but there is a reason behind telling you those very small stories. So about 3 years ago, I left my former employee, Deloitte. So we are quite friends here. And one of my friends invited me to be part of his startup, and I will tell you about his startup later on. But I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe the COVID vaccine or whatever, I took the decision to serve in the Ministry of Finance. So here I am 3 years after. During those 3 years, my friend is in his second round of financing. He got around 3 million euros, and he's doing something very interesting about taking measures and using the phone. During this period, I tried to do some steps in terms of digitization of the Romanian tax administration and the Ministry of Finance. And why I'm saying that, and I'm going to tell you a short list of things that we developed for a reason. So we have now e-invoicing, we have standard audit file for taxes, we have track and trace for some transport, we put some track and trace for packaging. And why I'm saying that is that I think one way for the state to engage with you guys at the end of the day is to allow you to use this data in your future plans in developing AI. I read this article in The Economist quite a while ago, whereby the British authorities invited the new developments in AI to use their health related information. And it seems that this data is very useful for developing some cures and some medicines in the area. What I want to say is that we have quite a lot of info. At the level of the Ministry of Finance, we have like everything. If you acquire a product, we can see when it has been produced or introduced into the market by being imported. And if it is paid by card, we can see who bought it. And this information may be very useful for several things. Unfortunately, we have the information, but you know, public sector do not really move in such a fast pace to use this information in a more broad manner, except for tax purposes or other very strict purposes. So some support some pressure from your side in order for some information to be provided for you to play and develop the next AI should be made, I think. And I tried to fill in some pillars, let's say, on how the state may help and may be involved in the further development of your industry. And I already mentioned the data. Then I also covered the state aid part within the Ministry of Finance. Now the state aid schemes have been are more developed. So we have another state aid scheme with the Ministry of the Economy, which should start next year. But on our scheme, I have a very nice story. So we have two state aid schemes, and one of them have been very used by your sector. And it still has quite a lot of budget allocated, and in simple terms, the state grants some money for the salaries to be paid, and the taxpayer needs to keep those employees for a while. And the good thing was that we made some analysis, and we saw the state as being an investor into the industry, because for each euro invested, the state got 3 back. So it's a very nice investment. It's 300% in one. So it's a very nice way to help this industry. So we managed to show to the policymakers that this is an investment and it's not a grant or something. It's a very good investment for the policy. So I encourage you all to be involved when we are structuring the new state aid schemes. And also, we developed another dedicated state aid direct, which is not in your industry, but it can be replicated. So we have Nokia, which is a tire manufacturer, who got 100 million euros for the investment made. So I see no reason for an innovation to be financed this way in future period. So we still have 10 minutes. I need to mention also the EU funds in a broad manner. So on one hand, when we were discussing the RRF, so PNRR, how we call it in Romania, the RRF, we had this green tagging and digital tagging. So everything needs to have at least 30% digital tagging. And when we are talking about quite many billions of euros over the next 3 years, I think that's a very good opportunity for the industry to go to those areas and add the digital tagging. And also, there are those direct measures that are somehow tracking your industry. So we had EU funds opened last year for digital developments. We will have now, they will open in different regions other available amounts from the EU funds, and we are talking about around 500 million euros. So you should also focus on that thing. And I have only 2 left. And then we have the tax incentives, and we will discuss about it. On one hand, for many, many years, we had this tax exemption for salaries paid in your industry. And the other direct, let's say, tax incentive related to the R&D, we managed to move it to a certain point while Tiano Burduja managed the digitalization ministry. And now we need to do the proper work with the Commission, but then again, I think it should be available starting with the next year. And that's the only one that I'm going to say. We had several meetings regarding matters that are indirectly handled by the Ministry of Finance. So, for example, we had several discussions on this cloud. If you recall, the EU Commission had a position whereby in the RRF they cannot finance cloud unless it is on premises. And then there is this EU competition with the states whereby they want to build an EU universal accepted cloud. And this sometimes affects some investments made in Romania. So we developed many skills in people living here in developing areas that are somehow US-based. So we need to, what I'm trying to say is that we need to somehow protect our IT workers, even though they are working under the US umbrella. So the EU position on the matter on a short and medium term is mandatory. And to conclude, I'm not sure if you know some figures, and I'm going to tell them, not figures, but things. So, you know, IT&C is, in GDP terms, 2 times bigger than agriculture, and that's a fact for years now. IT&C is higher in GDP terms than real estate. But this IT is not that present neither in political terms and neither in, I don't know, in the public, yeah, in the public press and so forth. So basically, worth that you point out those figures. So you are, in GDP terms, more important than real estate and more important than agriculture, which you can see. And the other factor, and that's also very important, for example, 25% of the growth this year is granted by IT&C. So you demonstrated, not only with this, but also, for example, the average salary in your industry is 2 times higher than the normal average salary.
More than 2 times.
More than 2 times. So you demonstrated that you can do it without or against sometimes the public policies, and you managed to do that. And I think that if we can somehow synchronize the public and the private policies, I think we can unleash something even greater. So I think I talked almost the 15 minutes of fame. And now I'm raising this the same question to Raluca because she has more feedback from you guys on the matter.
Thanks, Alin. I think I would add to the metrics you have just provided the fact that, and that has struck me significantly the moment I realized. So if we look at the productivity of an employee in the IT sector, which has grown significantly. I looked at the statistics from 2009 until this year, and today the average productivity of a Romanian employee, so in general, is still below the probability, the productivity that the IT sector had back in 2009. Yeah. That is, I think, says a lot. And having said that, definitely the incentives which were granted, at least on the income tax side, salary income tax side, for the employees, and which are now, you know, as we speak probably, the law will be published soon in the official gazette. How does that come together when government says wants to support, should support, because we see this is the value added that goes into the economy, and on the other hand, we see that support maybe, is not there or is misunderstood.
Well, I mean, it was not about, even in financial terms, about a very big hit, because at the end of the day, we were discussing about 6.5% in the salaries, which is more like a signal that you are putting that the state supports this. But then this exemption have been there for quite a long time, and I was saying before that, for example, the state aid scheme provides with €3 per one invested, and unfortunately for several years we did not make any post-analysis on the outcome of this tax incentive. And then what happened was that during those years, from around 200,000 employees, they granted also some tax incentive to the workers in agriculture, and then, initially to construction, then to agriculture. And then we reach out that basically 25% of the employees in Romania were exempted one way or another for some taxes. So politically, they decided somehow to level the playing field and say, well, we will grant this incentive and we will make it uniform for all those three areas that in political terms they see it as being most important for Romania. So I mentioned agriculture, construction and IT sector, even though the IT sector is bigger than them. And I hope that very soon will reach the other two levels combined. So at the end of the day, it was a political decision on the matter, and also it has been supported by the other things that I mentioned. So having the digital tagging, and also many amounts that should be spent by the public sector on digitizing their services. They were saying, well, we are creating a market, a big market, 10 billion market at least. So there is no need for us to further support this one. So we came to this compromise. I mean, I think it's a workable compromise. The fact that we still have a...
To look on the positive side, I think we can conclude, if the time's up, that as you mentioned, at least the tax incentives on the research and development area, both for individual taxation but also for corporates, it's still available, and will probably, a lot of the tech businesses will migrate into searching into this, in applying these incentives.
Yeah. So I guess our 20 minutes of fame are done.
I guess that's it. If there's any question? No? Okay. Thank you, guys.